Well, this is Friday, so we better get our recording underway. A fine morning I'm having. What about you, Pat? Are you having a fine morning so far?
Oh, grand. This guy called Jude Collins got me out of bed earlier than usual, but apart from that, grand. Friday morning. I've never been up
What,
at
you're
8
not going
o'clock
to
in my
repeat the
life.
words you said whenever you heard?
No, I can't. Not on air.
Children may be listening. Children may be listening.
Children may be listening. Yes.
Okay, we're going to very briefly look at a couple of items, and then there's a couple of items that some of our viewers, some of our throng of viewers have asked us to consider. The first one that caught my eye, Pat, was it's an article by the Irish Times House Unionist, you might say, columnist, Emerson. I think that's a fair enough description of him, and I think you'd accept that. And he notes that Amárach research says that 24% of people, only 24% of people say yes to the idea of a united Ireland inside the next 10 years, which is really very low. And he says 58% say solidly no. So there must be a difference there. One saying 58% are saying no to a united Ireland inside the next 10 years. 24% are prepared to say yes, and presumably the winners just simply don't know. Do those figures shock you, Pat?
I think, Jude, right now, people who support the United Ireland is down to 24%. But then, but within 10 years, the people who believe there will be a United Ireland is up 15% to 58%. They believe that there'll be a United Ireland in the next 10 years. So it's a sort of a confusion. No, it doesn't, Jude. I think right now, because of what's going on in the north, because there's no power sharing, there's been the unionists, particularly the DUP, have been at odds with the British government. I think a lot of people down south are going plaguing both your houses. How and under God could we possibly deal with these people? There's no matter what way you come at anything, they won't listen to their own government. They won't listen to our government. They won't listen to the EU. They won't listen to the American president. It's just no, 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 no all the time. And I think there's a lot of sort of people. Why and under God would any sane person take this on? I think that's the mentality is as on it's purely anecdotally and all this sort of stuff. When you talk to people, you sort of get the impression a lot of people down south just say, "Do we really need this hassle with these people?" They can't agree anything, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the problem has been all along. It's just I think that Emerson did say. I hope I've got this right now. He said 24% said yes to United Ireland inside the next 10 years. 58% said no. And presumably that leaves us a certain percentage of don't knows. But 58% again is saying no United Ireland inside 10 years. That's pretty damning. I'm not sure.
I thought he says the contradiction was 24%, that it dropped down to 40. The contradiction was that 24% said right now they weren't in favor. That's only 24% were in favor of United Ireland, which is a considerable drop down.
Yes.
But the contradiction and the paradox was 58% believe there would be in Ireland in 10 years.
Oh, no. I interpreted that, Pat. But we'll check it again. We'll confirm it for our viewers next time. But I interpreted that as being 58% saying no. They don't expect a United Ireland inside the next 10 years. 58% saying that. And 24% saying yes, they do expect it inside the next 10 years. Anyway, either way, I think there's an argument to be made that it shows good sense on the part of people. You need to know.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, it's the old Brexit problem. You need to know what it is that you're saying yes to or no to. And at present, United Ireland is just a slogan. Doesn't really mean anything. We don't know what kind of United Ireland do we want. Do we want to United Ireland to have the state broadcaster getting expenses and giving people cars and things for a year? 5 years. 5 years. It seems to me there's a real demand. There isn't a demand. I would demand a citizens' assembly first. Now, maybe there's another way of doing it. I'm not sure. But certainly a citizens' assembly would help to get some flesh onto the bones of this United Ireland skeleton.
I think Emerson's his article, he seems to be suggesting that it's nearly all but impossible to break up a sort of a modern state. And
Ah,
he says no matter what you say, he says you can't plan for it. And maybe there's an element of truth in that.
mm,
Um, he said it's near, but then Jude, I was thinking about that. But look at the other side of the story. Germany, it was unification east and west. Now that's the most
yeah,
recent one as far as I remember, and it is doable. Now it did cause considerable problems, but a fair bit of turbulence to the German economy, but
yeah,
they still did it. But here's the point: Emerson is also sort of saying a lot of unionists don't want to discuss the whole idea of United Ireland because they hope it goes away.
right,
And he says a lot of canny nationals don't want to discuss it because they hope it'll come, sort of come along, sort of, naturally. And the whole thing, and I'm not going to argue, but I think the paradox, I'm not certain, is he said that the strange paradox was the fact that so many had dropped down, yet so many believed that coming down the track in Ireland is almost inevitable.
mm,
There's one other point as well. 66% of people in Northern Ireland now believe they're worse off because of Brexit. That's a very, very high statistic. So this whole the whole debate is in flux, and as you keep saying it every time we discuss this, that even you would sit down, you would want to see the roadmap for United Ireland, what's involved, where it's going to take us, what's the politics, what's the health, what's the education, what's the infrastructure, all those things, at least a blueprint. And I think that's true for most people, Jude. Everybody saw that, Britain's still tearing itself apart over Brexit.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I would favour the citizens' assembly, but nobody, the government in the south, Dublin government, doesn't seem to be keen on doing anything of the sort. In fact, I've never heard them even mentioning either Fine Gael or Fianna
Yeah,
Fáil the two words citizens' assembly with regard to
yeah,
the border poll. Um, I think that personally, if they're reluctant, could Sinn Féin, who are obviously United Irelanders, could they not raise this question in the Dáil that there should be a citizens' assembly, that so that people would get some clearer idea of how things are? Or do you think maybe
yeah.
are they afraid? Would Sinn Féin be afraid, or would it be that RTE has simply sucked all the oxygen out of any attention to anything else?
RT, well, Jude, I don't know about you, but I think this RT thing, it's not the biggest thing in the world today, Jude, and it's dominating our news to an extent that it's every bulletin starts with this whole RTE controversy. Jude, it's not that big a deal. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I think RTE needs a massive overhaul, and there's a couple of things, but
Hmm.
Jude, not to the extent that the 6 o'clock news is full of it, the 9 o'clock news is full of it. Turn on Claire Byrne first thing in the morning, it's full of it.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm going, wait a minute, hey, this is an organization, but it's not hunger in the third world. It's not the Ukraine-Russian war. It's God knows, and there's so many other things in the world more important.
Yeah, but I think they're scared. RTE people are scared. The different programs, they're scared of being accused that they're glossing over it, and they're
Yeah,
showing themselves as being fearless in their looking at this sort of scandal that has erupted in their midst. I think that's what people are looking
yeah,
for. There's some brownie points for being brave and talking about the thing that really is against their own institution.
yeah.
But to come back to the other thing, I'm just wondering why it is that Sinn Féin haven't raised the idea in the Dáil of having a citizens' assembly. That's hard to say. Citizens' assembly
Assembly.
about a
Uh,
border poll. Is it?
well,
Are they
it's just
afraid to,
possible.
or
They could
oh,
be holding. They could be holding their fire until they get into maybe become into government, and then raising it. Like it
mm,
might be one of these things that they've sort of said it's not the most popular thing right now, and the
aye.
Republic of Ireland, and they're sort of saying like concentrate on the bread and butter issues, housing, health,
Uh,
which are by the way are totally dominating
yeah,
uh, every um, sort of debate in the Dáil these days.
yeah.
It
Good
boils
point,
down
Pat.
to so I presume they could be saying to themselves, "Look, right now, let's show that we're a party. We're more than just a United Ireland party. There are other things that people want to talk about."
Very wise indeed. Yes, yes. Now that you pointed out, Pat, I think you're right. Um, I think Sinn Féin don't want to. If they brought up the question of United Ireland or Border Pool now, people would say, "Ah, for God's sake, shut up! Look at the state RTE is in, and look at the economy, look at housing, and so on." And the same thing in the north. People are saying, "Look, at the problem is to get the assembly up and running, and you're yammering there about a United Ireland." I suppose it's a question of keeping your powder dry until, if that's a correct expression, keep your powder dry until the next occasion when it would be valuable. But it has to be done. It really has to be done. And I don't think if since it has to be done before we can address the question, I don't think Newton Emerson's doing anybody any favors, including himself, by writing columns and saying, "Oh, look, these people are against it, these people are for it." What's the point? What's the point in that except to distract people? Okay, let's move on. Well, I was going to say move on, but actually move back in a way, because there's an article in the Irish Times this morning about, again, Michael D. Higgins's speech, where he talked about having to be efforts to sort of frog marches into the south, into NATO, noting the fact that the woman who's heading up the inquiry or the committee is a dame, and just generally saying that Ireland needed to watch itself, that it was drifting towards neutrality. And then Michael D came out and said he was sorry. And the person who wrote this article, I've forgotten her name, but she says there was no real contrition in that. He really didn't mean it. He said it, and then he's
the woman who wrote it, it's Finn. She's called Finn McRedmond, if I remember
that's
correctly.
Right. That's good. Well done, Pat. What do you think? Has she got a point to be saying that Michael D. Higgins is wandering into territory where he shouldn't be, and that his contrition is only pretend contrition, he just sort of a throwaway thing?
I totally disagree with her, Jude. Absolutely 100%. I think there's some people in the Republic of Ireland now think, because our wee presence slightly left wing, the establishment seem to think that he's not entitled to any opinion. Most of our media, Jude, is right wing. The Irish Times has gone very right wing. I don't know quite why. The Irish Independent's got very right wing. They were sort of representing, but no wonder they're losing readers, because it doesn't reflect on the political reality anymore. But anyway, Finn McRedmond basically said, Michael D said the fact that we were drifting towards NATO and so on. Michael D said that he was surprised at the reaction to his comments. He says all he was looking for was the widest possible debate on that issue, and so on. Now she said. She also mentioned the fact that he had that he decided to turn down the invitation to remember the founding of the Northern Ireland state and stuff like this and so on, and she's sort of suggesting that he had politicized the office and so on. I think that's a load of bollocks. Basically Michael D is entitled to his opinion, and the president of Ireland going along to something about the founding of the Northern Ireland state, and that is politics. An expression an opinion about various things in the world, I don't think, apparently in the past, remember, I think in The Guardian some time ago, he was interviewed and he made a comment about the excesses of the British Empire, and certain people in Dublin said it was inappropriate that the president should, that's a political job. That's a load of bollocks as well. I'm sorry for swearing, too early in the morning for me.
Swear away, Pat, swear away. I find it refreshing myself.
I think that there's this sort of thing now that we should kowtow and all that. Jude, it's refreshing that the president has an opinion. I don't think he's gone anywhere outside the bounds. He's saying reasonable things, what most people think.
Absolutely, I agree. Couldn't agree more. This notion that we should just trot along, or the South should trot along in the wake of the EU, join PESCO, our American links encouraging us to join NATO. I just think that's crazy. And I'm delighted that he made the statement. What I am not delighted with this is that he made this effort at contrition and said, oh, he was sorry, it was offhand, off the cuff remark. He pointed out the fact that the woman heading up the committee was a dame of the British Empire, and so she is. And if you're a dame of the British Empire, you're going to have some kind of connection with the British Empire. And the British Empire wasn't exactly a force for sweetness and light. in history over the last 200 or 300 years. So my problem with him is that I say pretend. I think most people knew he was pretending, but even to pretend to be sorry for what he'd said, I don't think he should have been needed to do that at all. Would you concur?
I think, Jude, the main point he was making as well, which I think got lost in the sort of churn, was the fact that he thought that the whole the committee, the way it was loaded in a certain direction, and I think that was actually far more the substantive point, because there was a certain element of truth in that. Now, Micheál Martin and everybody else, and anyone who attended the debate would have seen how open and honest it was. I don't know if it would have been so open and honest had the wee president not drawn the attention to the fact that it was the dice was loaded on one side.
Who appoints these people to these committees? Government?
The great and the good. Well, usually the minister, isn't it?
Really?
Micheál Martin would have had a big say. He's the Minister for Foreign Affairs, so I presume he has civil servants would have organised it, and maybe a few academics, and then. But I would presume he has to rubber stamp it.
These people have huge power when you stop to think about it. Like, they could, as you suggested, they could fill this committee with people who would be of a like mind with themselves. They'll issue a report after much thought, and that's the kind of thing that pushes public opinion towards one direction or another. I don't think we realize how, we're being. I think the populace is being manipulated in ways. Now, I'm not saying it's illegal or anything, but public opinion is being manipulated in ways that it's not aware of. You're having committees set up, as you say, which are leaning one way and one way only, and they're going to come up with a report, presumably, that will reflect that. And the public are going to say, "Oh, well, that was a neutral committee that produced that."
It always reminds me of Noam Chomsky's one about the fact that you set the parameters of the debate, and then you allow massive debate within that parameter.
Yeah.
What you don't realize is, you're in a sort of, there's a big farm, but you're only in one wee garden.
Exactly.
And that's very clever. Oh, wait a minute, we're having a debate here, and look, it's open and honest. But hey, the dice or the guns loaded in one way, that sort of thing. Why didn't they bring in 2 or 3 people who were totally against NATO? Why didn't they bring in a couple of people, maybe experts from maybe even some of the communist countries, and said, look, wait a minute, NATO has done a lot, even just to even up the debate. But these were all establishment figures who all seem to be slightly in favor. Oh, look, the world's got a very dangerous place. The Russians have invaded Ukraine. We've got cables under the sea down in Cove. The cyber crime is going every which way, etc., etc., etc. And that's all scares the bejesus out of people, which is fair enough. But there's another side to it as well, that NATO did break a lot of rules in regard to the Russians. They sort of surrounded them and so on. And that, not everybody buys the version that the Americans are the good guys all the time.
Yeah.
By the way, if you give me the choice between the Russians and the Americans, I'm going to take the Americans all day long. That doesn't mean they're good guys.
Yeah. And I also think he's right to have drawn attention to the fact that the woman heading the inquiry or the committee was a dame of the British Empire. I mean, that puts her pretty close to the establishment of Britain, which would encourage a leaning towards Britain and following Britain's lead, if you like, if you're a dame of the British Empire. So I thought his off-the-cuff remarks weren't off the cuff, and I think they were spot on, actually.
I don't think I liked about McRedmond's articles where she pointed out Liz Truss, she says, after 55 days, where she'd wrecked the economy, buggered up this, that, and the other, and had a run on the pound, and reduced tax cuts. She had no idea how she was going to pay for them. Sacked her chancellor after and threw him under the bus. Then when she said Liz Truss's apology was, I came into as prime minister at a very difficult time economically. She says, in other words, that was no apology at all. In other words, it wasn't my fault. And she says Michael D has the same habit of sort of, he doesn't really apologise. All he said was sorry for personalising this thing about Louise Richardson.
There was an off-the-cuff remark, off the cuff, which suggests, I just got this idea. I said it, having thought about it for 5 seconds. I don't believe
our president said Elon Musk was a dangerous narcissist, and what else?
He's not far wrong there, I'll tell you.
And of course, it's wrong there. And Sabina, she remember his wife. She had a
Yeah.
letter up in at the start at the outbreak of the Ukraine Russian conflict. She actually said that she put up on the website, but it was on the presidential website. She said there should be negotiations to sort of end the war. Now, Jude, I think most sane people said there's nothing wrong with that, but it was considered political because she was the president's wife. It was up on the president, and that was not the government policy, because the government policy was basically pro NATO and pro Ukraine.
You see, this what really cheeses me off, Pat, and then we'll move on with this one. But these are people who are saying, no, the idea of negotiations, you're crazy. In other words, you're saying, let's have the Russians take some of what they've conquered and leave the rest to Ukraine. I just think that's a rubbish interpretation of it. That the idea that negotiations would lead to anything but peace and some sort of agreement. The other thing is, these are the very people who continually preach the doctrine of sitting down and working things out through politics. And here they are saying, you say to them, well, should we have a ceasefire and a discussion, so on? No. I have to beat every last Russian soldier out of Ukraine first, then we'll talk. Now, if in other circumstances, they wouldn't dream of that kind of thing. I mean, the IRA was told for years and years and years that they should seek a political path. And now that they have, I'm not sure that they've been commended for it. All you're getting is tales of, destruction and death. Well, one of the things, where did I see this, Pat, now that I'm talking about it? One of the things that came up, I think maybe there's an article. Oh yes, there's an article in the Irish Times today. I didn't warn you about this, but let me see what your reaction is. There's an article in the Irish Times today, a news article, which notes that another fresh witness has appeared for the Kingsmill Massacre, in connection with the Kingsmill Massacre. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah. Well, they just brought that up. And oh no, that was in the Irish News. That's what that was. Not in the Irish Times, Irish News. And I thought that was very interesting, because if ever there was a sectarian killing by the IRA, then that was a sectarian killing, where they chose who's a Catholic here and let the Catholic guy off and try to almost killed every one of the others. But fortunately, one of them survived and was able to tell what had happened. But I take off my hat to the Irish News. They did the one thing that you rarely get done, and that is they set the Kingsmill Massacre in some sort of context. And the context was that the previous day, 3 Reevy brothers and 3 O'Dowd brothers, in separate incidents, were shot and fatally wounded or killed on the spot.
By loyalists,
The day before. Now, it's as clear as can be that what the IRA was doing is saying, you're going to kill us, we'll kill you too. Not that excuses it for a moment, but likewise,
there is Jude, there's been so much in the past that one of the things, one of my hobby horses, and I do get rather exercised about it, is nothing, when it comes to the IRA, nothing's ever put in context. I am not standing up for the IRA, but there is a context. I mean, the Kingsmill, as you say, it's unjustified and unjustifiable, but like Bloody Sunday. But there is a context. The day before, there were 2 sets of brothers, 3 brothers shot dead, sectarian killings.
Yeah, by the Glenanne gang, I gather.
The Glenanne gang, and up to the police were up their eyeballs in it, the UDR were up their eyeballs in it, and so on. And that at that time. Now, after Kingsmill, I think the IRA had a rethink and says we can't go down this road, But at that stage, Jude, it was all-out civil war, and I think after that. But the context was that they were loyalists were killing with this aid of the police, and everybody knew that they were up their eyeballs on it. So, Jude, you're dead right. Kingsmill, it was no one's trying to justify Kingsmill. It was sectarian, and there's no doubt about that. But there was a context to it.
There's something chilling too. I would say, well, no matter where you are, if you're going to be killed, it doesn't matter where you are. But as far as I understand, both the O'Dowds and the Reevy family, they were at home. when this gang burst in on them. Have I got that right? Certainly the case was one
As
of
far as I
them.
remember,
But something makes it just a little bit more shocking. Anyway. Good for the Irish News for once. I don't always have a good word for the Irish News, but I have this morning. Okay. In the same newspaper this morning, Dennis Bradley, I was going to say your fellow townsman, but the man living in a town very near to you, the Derry man, Dennis Bradley, has said that Sinn Féin have been dragging their feet with regard to the PSNI. He says that they have adopted, while they've joined the policing board, they've adopted a show. We'll wait and you show us that you're impartial. Show us you're a decent police force, rather than getting behind the PSNI and giving them a fair wind, so that we would establish a police force that had been built by nationalists and unionists and that would serve everybody. Does that? He also goes after Sinn Féin for another reason, and that is he says that they were putting up posters during the last election, which they did so well. Essentially, around Derry, essentially saying that the Ulster University numbers were going to be really vastly increased, so you'd have a better balance between the huge new campus, downtown campus of Ulster University in Belfast, and the campus in Derry. What will your views be on that? Would he be right on first of all, the point about Sinn Féin sort of dragging its heels in the PSNI and not giving its full-hearted support, and as a result, nationalists not giving it full-hearted support?
Jude, I remember I keep referring, but the old Frank Kern was the editor of the Journal before me. Frank was the old style nationalist, and he was a very astute man. And I remember, it was like learning off somebody, that when it came to politics. And I remember Frank saying on numerous occasions, he says, until the police thing is sorted out, this place will never be sorted out. And that was the RUC. And I remember as well reading somewhere back in the early 1960s, the RUC was 93% Protestant, and Jude, the whole edifice of the Northern State was built and maintained by the police service or the police force, the RUC. That's a fact. There's no doubt about it. And Sinn Féin right now are writing a very, very, it's like riding a big stallion when it comes to the police. Nobody's sure what it is. A lot of nationalists, they think the PSNI is the RUC with just different uniforms and a different name. There's a lot of people still believe that. Now, Jude, I don't know what percentage of the PSNI is Catholic these days. I would hardly think it's more than, what would it be, a third or anywhere near a third, maybe 25%. Plus the fact that it doesn't help, Jude, that nearly every report into collusion comes out says yes, there was complete collusion between the police force, and the past and so on.
That's the RUC you're talking about. That's the
RUC, yeah, but it's the legacy of policing. You change the name, but it doesn't change.
Well,
so I think there's
if I could just interject there for a second. But his point, Bradley's point, is that Sinn Féin should have got right behind the PSNI from the beginning, and as a result, given a lead to the nationalist population, and you could have developed a sense of respect and trust, rather than stand back and said to the PSNI, "Well, show us that you're impartial. Show us you're not the RUC."
You see, Jude, I like Dennis and I get on Dennis, but I don't agree with that, Jude. I think that's a very tricky one for Sinn Féin. Very, very tricky. There's so many people in the nationalist community just don't trust the police. They really don't. They have seen too much and for too long, and it's inbuilt. And I would be aware of the fact that there are a lot of people in Sinn Féin are sort of saying, when you prove to us that you're impartial, we will support you. But until that comes along, and Jude, I think that's a reason. You can't just flick a switch and say, "Oh, right. Yesterday we thought you were a bigoted, sectarian police force. Today we think you're not." It's not going to happen. Jude, respect is earned, trust is earned.
Yeah. Do you think the PSNI has been doing a good job?
Jude, I have mixed feelings on it. I think they're not. I think the oversight has helped a lot. I think the fact that the focus is on it and all that. But Jude, I am not totally convinced that they're over the hurdle yet. I'm not totally convinced.
My own feeling is that at the beginning, when they were set up first, they really were model police service. They were courteous, they were friendly, they really did all the right things. I think as time went by, as decades rolled past, less of that appeared. You know, they don't seem to have quite that degree of charm, let's call it, that they had at the very beginning. And one or two boo-boos, I'm trying to think, there were several, but one that remains in my mind was, you remember there was a commemoration of the 5 men that were killed in the booties in Ormo Road, and there was a commemoration, and the one person arrested, basically turned up and arrested the guy whose relatives, or he was shot, was he, in the course of the attack? See, that kind of thing is, it looks bad. I mean, is there nobody was that an oversight, or was that a desire to please unionism, or what was it?
I don't know, Jude. You see, now I've seen in Derry, you know, a policeman, driving on his own in the car and getting out and going into a shop. I've seen two. I was there. I saw a young male cop and a female cop strolling around down the Strand Road, not the Strand Road, along the quay there in Derry, saying hello to everybody and all the rest. Now, Jude, I like that. I think it's good. So on, so on. But you know, that compare is a big improvement on the. Remember the good old days, they used to run around and heavily armored Land Rovers, and you know. Spoke to nobody, and they were just seen as basically jackboots. You know, Jude, I think Dennis, I understand where he's coming from, and I know what the point he's making. But Jude, there's a legacy, and legacies tend to stick in people's mind until such times as you sort of prove that you're not bigoted and sectarian like the RUC. You know, I think they're on the road, but Jude, how far down the road? I don't know.
Okay. Just to take about 10-20 seconds at this second item, and then I'll move on, because our listeners have asked us to talk briefly about the Orange Order and recommend some books. Well, the posters, Dennis Bradley in the same article claimed that there was posters put up by Sinn Féin claiming in Derry at the time of the election, claiming that they had really got the kind of numbers that Ulster University needed in order to have a proper university and a counterbalance for the new Ulster University in Belfast. Does that strike you do you notice any of those posters at the time?
Oh, Jude, that is rubbish. I don't think Sinn Féin deserve a whale lot of credit for the University of Ulster. I give it to Conor McFeely and Garvin Downey, who have kept the Derry University group. They have they've done a lot of work. They've gone met people in Dublin. They have met academics. Jude, here's a quick version of this story. That new decade, new approach, there was supposed to be some sort of deal that would be 10,000 students at Derry by the turn of the end of this decade. Right now, there's about 4,500 students, which is way below. And I can't remember the name of the professor. He came out about 2 or 3 years ago and said the limit in Derry would be 6,500, because that's as much as good. And this is at a time when 83% of third level student numbers are based in Belfast. Dude, I looked it up this morning. There are 19,000 students at UCG. There are 15,000 at the University of Limerick. Why should Derry be limited to 6,500? Look, Garvin Downey and Conor McFeely have done a magnificent job lobbying for an independent university, or one that stands alone from the authorities in the north. I don't know whether that's ever going to happen, but they've done such a good job that the Irish government are now coming in with 50 million euros to boost it up. So no, I don't think Sinn Féin should be attempting to take any credit, because I don't see they deserve any credit for it.
Okay, very quickly, because there's just under 4 minutes. They asked one of the viewers asked us to talk about the Orange Order. Actually, what they said was to give them a notion of the history of it. So I'll give here's the history of the Orange Order in about 50 seconds. Orange Order was established in 1795 after a sectarian clash between Catholics and Protestants. 30 Catholics were killed, and in a pub, the Orange Order was established. Throughout the 19th century, throughout the 20th century, there were repeated riots, clashes, killings on every 12th of July. The British government eventually suspended them for about a decade, I think, in the middle 1830s, 1840s, not sure which. They have rules, so that's their history. The rules include, although I think they've modified these a bit in recent years, very recent years, no entry to a church or chapel by or a Catholic place of worship by any person who was going to be an Orangeman. If they did, they were no longer an Orangeman. No Catholics need apply. No person who's married to a Catholic need apply. In fact, all Orangemen must vow to fight against, quotation marks, popish idolatry. So that's essentially the history. There's a suggestion that this year they may even leave out the field, you know, the famous field that they marched to.
Yeah.
There's a suggestion they're going to, there's bad numbers last year. So suggesting they're just going to do a circuitous march around and leave it at that. Well, I myself feel that it would be better if they'd done the other way around. If they had kept the field and let them do the marching in the field rather than out through the streets and, you know, provoking people. What would your own thoughts be on that, Pat? Did I give a fair summary there of the Orange Order?
I think that's a potted history of the Orange Order.
Yeah. But anyway, is it inaccurate or true?
No, I think that's basically it. It's a sectarian organization.
Okay.
Nobody can turn around and say it isn't. Should they say that themselves? They're avowedly Protestant and unionist. They say that themselves.
Okay.
But anyway, the Belfast Lodge, the BBC Newsline last night had it that the Belfast Lodge wants they're dropping the they're sort of radical proposals. They want to sort of drop this this march on, you know, it's I think it's about 10 miles, and they want to drop it by about 6 miles, right? You know, that's the first thing. But Jude, you left out, but they said last year's march was abysmal, and I think they were basically saying it was a disgrace. You know, so
I think that might be the motivation.
Yes, it was abysmal and unacceptable. 12th of July in 2022, probably the worst in decades. I wrote that down.
So
the Orange Order is saying something a lot of nationals have been saying that for a long time. No, these apparently there was a lot of booze, and somebody said it's about the battle, not the bottle. And a lot of guys were pissed as newts. So, Jude, and they were, and I know when you have a lot of drinking,
we're out of time. Name one author that people should have a look at.
Wally Lamb.
Wally Lamb, L-A-M-B. Okay, I'm going to Maeve Binchy reading Jag. Okay, Pat, thank you very much.
Good night, Jude.
And we'll see you on the other side of Sunday. Okay, all the best.
Okay, Jude.
Thank you.
All the best. See you later.
Yeah.
Well, what time do you get on?